Well, good morning, Northside. Hope you had a blessed Easter. We sure did at our church. What a wonderful time we had together studying the work that Christ did in the darkness on the cross and the beauty of the cross and the empty tomb. Ben mentioned this verse the other night in his teaching, so I'm going to share some thoughts with you. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 19. Paul writes to the church at Ephesus, the Christians there, "You did not learn Christ in this way." Think about that. How did you learn Christ? You did not learn him in this way. If indeed you have heard him and have been taught in him, just as truth is in Jesus, that in reference to your former manner of life, you lay aside the old self, which is being corrupted in accordance with the lust of deceit, that you being renewed in your spirit and of your mind, and you put on the new self, which is in the likeness of God, has been created in righteousness and holiness of truth. So our question today is, have you learned Christ in the right way? Have you learned to let go of the hardness of your heart? Previous verses just before we read here. The hardness of your heart, your calloused heart. Have you learned to let go of your lustful fleshly drives, the ways of your old life? Paul says to the Christians at Ephesus, if you've learned Christ, you've put the old self off and you've put on your new self. You've clothed yourself with his character and his behavior and his attitude. If you've learned Christ, you've put those things on. You despise sin. You don't keep making excuses for it. You find ways, memory verses, accountability, confession of sin. You find ways to get sin out of your life. That's not the way. If you did not learn Christ in that way, Paul's saying you learned the wrong thing. He's saying, did you give yourself up to all those things of your past, to your sensuality, to your greed, to the practices of all this impurity? Are you going to walk in the newness of life? If you look down just a few verses, chapter 5, verse 1 of Ephesians, he says, you are to be imitators of God and walk in love, just as Christ did. So how did you learn Christ? Have you learned the real deal? Have you learned the real Christ? Truth about who Christ is in you and what Christ did for you and what you're supposed to do now to walk in him, set yourself free from your past and the sinful ways, despise the sin that's in your life, and walk in righteousness and do your best to pursue every way to walk holy and right before God. I hope you learned Christ well, and we'll see you back soon. Thanks for watching.